Ever get that feeling that there are hidden rules to language? You know, these secret patterns that we all just follow without even realizing it? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on a pretty fascinating world, where data scientists basically become language detectives. We're going to be talking all about corpus linguistics.
So to kick things off, get this. Research shows that more than half, 50%, of the English we use every day isn't made up of single words we piece together. Nope, it's actually made of prepackaged, multi-word phrases. Things like by the way, or point of view, or at the end of the day. Isn't that wild? More than half our language is basically prefabricated.
And that, of course, leads to the big question, how on earth could anyone possibly know that? I mean, you can't just guess. You can't rely on a gut feeling. To solve a language mystery this big, you need some serious tools. And this is where our language detectives get to work.
Now, every good detective needs a place to find clues. And in this case, it's a library. A really, really big library.
This library is called a corpus. And a corpus is just a massive, carefully organized digital collection of real-world texts. And when I say massive, I mean it. We're talking millions, sometimes billions of words from books, from newspapers, websites, even transcribed conversations. It's like taking a giant snapshot of how we're all actually using language out in the wild.
And the name for this whole field of study? That's corpus linguistics. It's all about digging into these enormous collections of data to find patterns that would be totally invisible to the naked eye. It's not about what we think we say. It's about looking at the cold, hard evidence of what we actually do say and write.
Okay, so how do you even build one of these language libraries? It's not as simple as just throwing a bunch of random books into a digital folder. Building a really good corpus is a super careful scientific process. It basically breaks down into 3 key steps. First, you have to design it so that it's representative of whatever it is you want to study. Maybe that's 21st century American blogs, or maybe it's 18th century legal documents. Second, you go out and collect all the data. And third, you have to clean it all up and annotate it to get it ready for analysis.
And let me tell you, that cleaning stage is a huge amount of work. You've got to make sure you're not comparing apples to oranges, mixing different types of writing without being careful. You've got copyright issues, the technical headache of scanning really old documents, and the super tedious job of scraping off all the digital junk, like menus and ads from websites. And then you get to the really detailed part, adding linguistic data, labeling every single word as a noun, a verb, an adjective, and so on. It is incredibly meticulous.
So, the library is built, it's organized, it's ready to go. How do our detectives actually find the clues? Well, this is where the real fun starts.
The most basic tool in the whole toolkit is just frequency. You literally just count how many times a word appears. It's a great place to start, but, and this is a big but, just looking at raw counts can be seriously misleading.
And this is a perfect example of why. So, in a corpus of campaign speeches, Donald Trump used the word jobs 525 times, which is more than double Hillary Clinton's 251. So case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Turns out his collection of speeches was just a lot bigger. So when we normalize the frequency, even the playing field, by calculating how often the word appears per 100,000 words, the picture changes completely. Suddenly, Trump's count is 313 and Clinton's is 264. Much closer. See? That extra bit of context, the size of the data set, it changes everything.
But we can go way deeper than that. The real power comes when you start comparing things. We can find what are called key words. These are words that are statistically unusually frequent in the text we're studying compared to, say, a huge collection of general everyday language. This tells us what's unique or special about our specific set of texts.
For example, check this out. Here are the top keywords from a big corpus of self-help texts. What jumps out at you? Words like difficulty, success, depression, anxiety, stress. Just like that, in a single list, you get a thematic fingerprint of the entire genre. It's an incredibly powerful shortcut. But look, counting words, even in these really clever ways, is only half the story. The real, nitty-gritty detective work happens when we look at the most important clue of all: context.
To do this, we use a tool called a concordance, and that's really just a fancy list that shows you every single time your word shows up, right there in the middle of the sentence it actually came from. This lets you see how a word is being used, not just that it's being used.
So let's take a look at the word refugees in a corpus of British newspapers.
If you just do a quick scan of the results, you might see lines like "Scandal of the Bogus Refugees" pop up. Your first impression might be, wow, okay, this seems pretty negative, right?
But hold on. This is where you have to be a good detective. You have to expand the context and look at the whole sentence. And when you do, you see that the article wasn't using that phrase itself, it was quoting it in order to criticize it. This is the perfect example of why you can't just be a word counter, you have to be a word reader. Context is absolutely king.
Okay, so this is all pretty fascinating stuff, but you might be asking, why should I care? What does this mean for the rest of us? Well, it turns out these techniques have some seriously powerful real-world applications.
I mean, this stuff is being used everywhere. It helps create way better dictionaries that are based on how words are actually used. It improves materials for people learning a new language by studying common mistakes. It's used to uncover subtle biases and how the media talks about different groups of people. It's even used in legal cases in a field called stylometry to help figure out who wrote an anonymous note just based on their writing habits. And it lets us literally watch language evolve over time.
The bottom line is, every single day, all of us are contributing to this massive, living, breathing library of human expression. Corpus Linguistics gives us the key to unlock it, to reveal the hidden stories in our words, and by extension, in ourselves. So it leaves you with this question: what other secret stories about our society are just sitting there, waiting to be discovered in the trillions of words we produce every day?